Hey, everybody. Welcome to No Fear, the podcast that explores the boundaries of courage and fear. I am Pete Pepe, one of the co founding members of 3777. I have the great pleasure of having the other two co founding members right next to me today, Mr. Iiro Sepan, and to my left, directly across from me, is Mr. Jeb Corliss in the house. All right, today's theme, what we're going to be talking about, is actually a happy subject. It's one of Jeb's favorite things to speak about. We're actually going to be speaking about death. And it's a good one. So, look, it's a tough subject for a lot of people to talk about just because people do not like to actually face the fact that one day we will all die. And facing the fact that we're mortals is not an easy thing to do. So I'm not going to mess around that much longer. We're going to dig right into it. I'm going to get Iiro started right here to my left. Let's kick it off.
Yes, so today we're going to be talking about the greatest fear for the entire humankind. Ooh, mortality. No, we have special effects these days, so we've got a ramped up production budget.
How much did we pay for
Oh,
those?
millions.
Okay, I thought so.
So like let's talk about serious subject, like you said, and I want a little bit talk about my childhood experiences and how that kind of planted the seed of thinking a lot about death and how I was able to kind of diminish the fears of death and change my entire perspective of life.
Awesome.
Because I think I was about 6 years old. I got really sick. It was like at convulsions. I was like losing weight on both ends and I got spots, fever. It was horrible. I was taken to a hospital and I had to be in isolation for a week. And for a 6-year-old boy, that's traumatic. Like you see the whole world outside and you don't know what's wrong with you and you don't know if you get better and if it comes back again. So that experience planted that seed of like potentially dying young, and I ended up spending and thinking about a lot of death before, like probably more than the kids my age would. And then fast forward to when I got to my late teens, and I was also struggling with depression, and I also little bit of the same background, so like you've been openly talking about, so self-destructive, and I had set myself wrong priorities in life because I always thought like when I become rich and famous, I'm gonna get happy, and when that happened in my small country of Finland, I couldn't find the happiness, and base jumping was almost like a lifeline for me. And then I took it and I pulled it and it pulled me into the world of adventure and my motivation right in the beginning was to be close to death and then see if I actually wanted to die. Like I mean, it's almost like a truth serum. Like you almost standing on top of like a firing squad and you have to be honest for yourself and see the way like decisions you made and your priorities, how important they are, and are you being truthful for yourself. So for me, always, especially in the beginning, most like a base jumping was a truth serum that forced me to be honest and make decisions that would actually make me happy, and it would not be something that happiness would come from within and my actions rather than the things that I could buy for myself.
Do you think that initial time when you were 6 years old, do you think that kind of instilled something into you that then like planted the seed then for later down the road?
And I think it's all about like taking control in life because I think like, oh, well, how about if I get sick again, I'm going to die again. So I'm like a hardcore skeptic, but I made a self-profession, prophecies, what's the word?
Prophecy.
Self-prophecy that I'm going to die when I'm 27. Like I couldn't play any instrument or guitar, but I thought I was a rock star like Jim Morrison and Janis Joplin. And that's the way to go, like a rock and roll lifestyle. And not to mention, I'm not a very musical
you were
person.
rock and roll, but you lived a good rock and roll lifestyle.
Yeah, but then that kind of set an urgency in life for me because I think if I'm going to try at 27, I'm going to pack as much life as I can, and I'm going to do. And I packed like 3 lifetimes before I even reached that point. And in some ways, it's like our friend Yuri likes to say, false sense of security is better than no sense of security. So in that sense, if I thought I'm only going to die when I'm 27, so I was bulletproof until I reached that age, and that allowed me to take a lot of the risks that I did. And then kind of going back to the concept of death and dying, we've been talking about this subject matter for this podcast for 3 decades with Jeb, and his perspective have influenced the way I see my world and my philosophy and big foundation block.
I'm not going to let you off the hook just yet before we get to him because we know he's going to unleash hell. So it's interesting though, when you then started base jumping for you personally, did you get to that point where you're already like knowing that you're going to die at some point? Was that consistently in your head where you accepted the fact that one day it's going to happen? So you were just pushing it like to the edge and beyond, it
Well,
seems like.
absolutely. I mean, at first, it was just a concept. Like you lie to yourself and you think you're naive. It can't happen. And it was my first trip to Norway when a person that I met just died a few days later. So then that was something very real and something that a reminder that it does happen. And if we just get close enough. So I think for me, like I think it was flirting with the concept of death. Like, do I actually want to die? Like, I'm how close do I can get? And so in the beginning, I think it was that, but I think being so close to death and then kind of forced me to rewire my brain. So rather than seeking the death, I kind of was seeking for life, and the whole perspective why I continue to jump was changed like ultimately because yeah, I didn't take life for granted anymore. So I had that motivation to wake up early or like when we did our hikes to stop and enjoy the view and
Yeah.
drink from the stream. So there was this major like self-wiring. Almost for me, it was like a rite of passage into the next version of myself and facing not only the fear, but having to face myself and the decisions and the goals that I had set to myself in my previous career.
Yeah, it's neat though to see that it comes out through base jumping or an extreme activity like that, that you went in one way and then it alters you. Like you see something happen to someone else and then there's a little bit of a wake up call, but that did not stop you from jumping. You still continue to jump, but it seems like you kind of rewired your brain a little bit and had a different vision as you continued forward.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, it was just a reminder how real it is. And then once those hits comes closer and you start getting injured yourself and the whole idea of the sport changes. So it's like a love affair that starts in the beginning, and then but if you don't pay a respect, like it's like a jealous girlfriend, as someone said, they're gonna
Yeah.
slap and like really hurt you bad, and that's how it was my relationship. It was the most beautiful experiences, and not only what I did, but the finding friends like lifelong friends like Jeb. It strengthened the whole experience, and if we
Right.
create this bond, we've been talking about previous podcast of like almost being like veterans together, and so I think that was the half of the process. It was the things that I was able to grow personally, but also like experience that we shared as a group, and yeah,
Yeah, well,
how it
look,
changed
that's
our
awesome.
lives.
I think now is time to unleash the beast. I want to start this though because I know we're going to bounce around a bit. It'll kind of interweave back and forth. We'll go off the rails a little, but to get things started, I know so many people say consistently when they see what you do that you have a death wish, and I know for you, you have an answer for those people. So I'd like to kick it off with that, and then we'll let you just run rampant.
Well, it's interesting because, I'm 48 years old, and I'm a very different person now at 48 than I was when I was, 5 years old, 10 years old, 16, 20, 30. I mean, you grow as a human being. And when I was 16, I would say, yes, I had a death wish. I mean, there's no question. I was suicidal and I was very unhappy with my life and I did not want to exist. I went through a very dark, and which I think a lot of teenagers do. I'm not unique in that, I may be a little unique in the way that I dealt with it, but I definitely was suffering from something that a lot of teenagers suffer from. And now as a 48-year-old looking back on that 16-year-old, I don't even know what my problem was. I'm not sure why I was so unhappy. I don't know why I was so upset. I don't know why I didn't want to be here, but I do know that I was going through something that was so dark that I had no hopes or desires or dreams. I didn't want anything. I didn't care about anything, period. I just didn't want to be here. I didn't understand why I had to wake up in the morning or why I ate food or drank water or did anything. And I suffered from very serious, like damaging suicidal tendencies. And I was going to kill myself until I found base jumping. And it actually saved my life, which is kind of, there's some irony in the idea that, a sport that kills people at such a high rate is what actually saved me, but it did. And the reason why it did is because, I was one day sitting on my couch with really no desires or hopes or dreams or
Yeah.
anything. And I'm just kind of flicking through channels. And all of a sudden I saw an image of a man standing on a cliff, and he was standing there. And I was just like, that's interesting. And I stopped and was watching. And then I watched him lean forward and step off and start to fly. And it struck me like electricity. That's the best way I can describe it. Is I felt this just electric force like come through my body, and instantly I'm like, that is what I want to do until the day I die. Like that is such a perfect activity. Like if I do that, then I'm doing something that very few human beings on this world are willing to do because they're scared of dying. If I die while doing it, then I get released from my suffering on this planet. So it was a win-win situation. I couldn't
Wow.
see anything more perfect than that. It was like, that is what I'm going to do. And as dark as that sounds, because it is, as a 16-year-old depressed brain that was, having these thoughts, now looking back, you're like, wow, that's super dark and not a positive thing at all. But as it turns out, it saved my life, because you don't just all of a sudden become happy because you find something you want to do.
Yeah.
This is a process that takes time. And at that time, I was in this super dark place. I mean, like, the best way I can describe it is, imagine being like in a dark room where you can't see no light. And what base jumping became is this little tiny light off in the distance that I could see. And it gave me a direction. It gave me a place to go. And every time I would get super depressed, because it comes in waves. It doesn't just happen. Like, a lot of time you see depressed people, they're smiling and laughing and happy, but that's not all the time, right? That's a face they put on to show people, But what happens is, you start getting these downturns that can get so dark that I was going to kill myself for sure. And I had, a gun in my mouth. I was ready to go.
Wow.
And what had me hold on was this thought of, no, don't waste it. Like, if you're going to die anyway, do something with your death, and it was the base jumping that made me hold on. And base jumping dragged me through my teen years into my 20s. Like, it is what kept me alive. It's what that thought is what made me, survive. And the process of becoming a base jumper takes time. You don't just all of a sudden, it doesn't just happen.
I was just thinking the same thing about the time of it.
Takes time. And that time was necessary for me. Like, luckily I didn't just get to start base jumping when I was 16, because I wouldn't have made it.
Right.
But because I couldn't base jump I couldn't even skydive till I was 18. Then I needed to do enough skydives to get base jumpers, so they would actually take me on and teach me. So it took me until I was 21 years old until I finally was able to do my first base jump. And at that point, I had already transitioned into a different person. I no longer wanted to die. I actually I'd met people, I'd made friends, I started becoming happy. And I started having this sport was so powerful that it had given me things that I never imagined. It gave me feelings and sensations I didn't even know existed, So
Seems like you had a purpose. To carry you through from 16 to the first jump, you must have had a serious willpower to go, I'm going to do this.
That's really what it comes down to, is when you're a depressed person, you don't want anything, right? So in order to get out of that, a part of it comes from finding something you actually want, finding a purpose, finding a reason. Like, why am I waking up? Why am I eating food and drinking water? Why do I exist? Right? So for me, base jumping became the purpose. That became the point. That became what I was going to do, what I needed to do. It became everything. And it gave me, like I said, that light to move towards.
Right.
And by the time I was 21, I was there. I'm doing it. And now I'm traveling around the world base jumping off stuff, and life is spectacular. And then what you do is you're like, this is so amazing. I want this to go on for as long as I possibly can. I mean, this is absolutely incredible. And I started doing it, and I started making a living at it, and then I started becoming known for it. And you have people ask, do you have a death wish? And it's like, well, right now, absolutely not. I mean, if I had a death wish doing these incredibly dangerous things, I'd be dead. I mean, that's all there is to it.
Right. You wouldn't pack the chute.
You will not.
Point.
Even if you did pack your chute, you're not going to survive if you have a death wish doing things this dangerous. That's just all there is to it. So if I had a death wish, I would be dead. The reality is that this is giving my life purpose and meaning, and it's allowing me to, express myself in a way. And again, I was suffering from, and I didn't even really realize this until much more recently. Like, at the time, I was kind of a little unconscious about what was going on. Now, I wrote a book, and during the writing of the book, I started realizing, there's something wrong. Like, I have something wrong with me. And it's funny, it took me maybe 5 or 6 different stories that I was writing, trying to explain why I was doing things, before I finally was like, oh, I'm insane. I have an actual serious psychological disorder, and I was suffering from something that I just never got help for. And, it was a really strange understanding to come to this realization that, oh, well, that's right, I have a mental disorder. And that's incredible. And that's what I was coping with. And I used base jumping as a coping mechanism, and it's what helped me survive. I needed it. That's why I always tell people, it's like, I'm not a proponent of base jumping as a healthy, safe lifestyle.
Right.
I think that if you can find happiness in your life doing anything else, do anything else. But for some people, You need this in order to survive, in order to live. And I
Yeah.
was one of them. But this concept of death, right? So yes, did I have a death wish? Absolutely not. Did I understand that what I was doing could kill me? Yes. That it was, I had a very strong understanding of mortality. And that ability to understand that death was coming was why I was able to keep doing it. Because I was in a paradoxical kind of situation. There was a paradox. I wanted to live, but I was doing something that was highly dangerous that could kill me. And that's a tricky thing to be in. So the way I actually coped or dealt with that was going, okay, well, I'm going to die. There's nothing I can do to stop that from happening. So if I'm going to die anyways, I might as well live my life the way I want, doing something that brings me joy, that gives my life purpose and meaning. So there's this thing, you know, I could stop base jumping right now. I could stop skydiving right now. I could stop flying wingsuits, diving with sharks. I could stop riding motorcycles. I can stop doing anything dangerous, and I'm still going to die. And I think that that's what a lot of people, it's hard for them to wrap their heads around this idea that death is coming for you. Robin Hyde actually said something years ago. He's a buddy of ours who's a writer. And it was always really struck me. He's like, everyone thinks that death is on some distant horizon. It's not. It's riding your back.
Yeah.
And that's what I think people, they can't really wrap their heads around this idea that at any moment, on any day, you can die. And one of the reasons why I'm capable of doing the things that I do are two stories. I'll tell you one.
Yeah.
But this is a good enough one. This one will help you understand. My little sister, 16 years old, her best friend got her driver's license. She had it for 1 week. Okay, 1 week. 16-year-old girl, never did anything dangerous in her life, totally sheltered by her family, driving herself to school. Someone fell asleep behind the wheel on the other side of the road, hit her head on, she was killed instantly. Doing something that you and I do every day, all the time, never thinking about it, you know? And once you realize that your life can be taken from you on any day, at any time, wherever you are, no matter what you're doing, then that actually makes you realize, okay, you know what? I need to do something with that little bit of time that I get. It gives you a sense of urgency, and it makes you understand, okay, you know, I only have so many moments till that time comes. And when it comes, hopefully, you know, I will have done something with that time. And I think that understanding also makes you understand how precious it is. People think, you know, if you got to live forever, then life wouldn't mean anything. It wouldn't matter. None of it would matter. It'd be like, hey, this conversation means something because it's limited. We'll only get to have so many of them. If we live forever, it's like, oh, dude, I'll catch you in a billion years. We'll catch up later. I mean, who gives a shit? It doesn't matter. But it matters because we're only going to have so many of these. You know, and I think that when people start accepting the reality of what death is, and that they are mortal, and that it will come to an end, and they don't really know when, they don't really have control over it, you know, that makes them literally go, okay, well, what am I going to do with my time? And it makes it important.
Like you said, it makes you enjoy the moments more as opposed to just taking it for granted. Going,
Appreciate.
Yeah. Now, I want to back up. You said something really cool. I wanted to dig inside your head like I like to do. I don't want people to misunderstand that you accept death, you know it's inevitable. You're doing your wingsuiting, your base jumping, you're doing all this. But by no means, if I'm correct with both of you, there's still fear, because we talk about fear a lot, and that's like at the core of what we like to talk about. It's like you aren't now hopping up going, oh, I know I'm going to die. I'm not scared of it.
No.
But that doesn't mean you don't fear it. Like, explain the fear.
It's a way
aspect.
of coping. Okay, so it's funny. Like for a long time, I thought I was really unique in this because I never met anyone else who talked about it this way. But when I would go into base jumps, I would, and again, there's different levels of base jumping. When I say base jumping, I'm talking about super dangerous ones that can kill you. Like when you're doing a really gnarly one that could end your life, and it's super scary, and it's forcing you into a place where you're absolutely horrified. That's what I'm talking about.
The type of jumps you made a living out of.
Yes, the kinds of jumps I did a lot of. But there are jumps that aren't like that. There are also jumps that are just fun and chill, and that's a different type of jump. I'm talking about the extreme shit that can kill you. So when you're doing one of those types of jumps, I always approached it with, okay, this is going to kill me. Like, I accept the fact that I am going to die. And I would go into it with this understanding that, okay, worst case scenario is I die. I accept this as an inevitable fact that this will happen. And then what it allowed me to do is shed my fear of death. And then I was able to function and do what I needed to do to not die. So I thought that was really unique to me. I didn't know anyone else who approached it that way. Most people were the opposite. They would be like fairy tale land. Oh, nothing's ever going to happen. Like, and there's this concept like, there's optimist, there's pessimist, right? And then there's realist. Right. I think optimists and pessimists are idiots. If you think everything's going to go right, you're wrong. If you think everything's going to go wrong, you're wrong. You got to be a realist, realistic about the things that you're doing. Especially when you're doing dangerous shit, you have to be very realistic. And I was very realistic. But so I'm not being a pessimist saying, oh, I'm going to die. It's like, no, I'm realistic that this is a possibility. Later in life, I started reading about samurai. And also Spartans had a very similar approach. But a samurai warrior, when they go into battle, they accept death. And that allows them to shed their fear of it so that once they go into battle, they can do everything necessary to not die. And it's a literal psychological approach at how you cope with extreme fear, like the really heavy duty stuff. Because fear at certain levels, especially when involving death, you can get paralyzed. And we see it in base jumping a lot, and we call it data dumping. So if a person's on an exit point and the fear is overwhelming them, you'll see their eyes get really big. And then you'll see them kind of like tune out, their brain and you can see them almost shut down. And I've watched people literally step off a cliff and then never do anything because they literally shut down. So their brain just overloads. They go off the cliff. All they had to do was reach back, grab pilot chute, and throw it. But they literally just shut down until they impact. And when you witness it, you're like, oh my God. And the first time you see it, you don't really know what you're looking at. But then after you see it a couple times, and I've seen it more than a couple times, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God. And now I've actually seen people on the exit doing it. Like I can see them like shutting out. And I literally grab them like, dude, are you here right now? And we have a conversation. And I've actually talked to people out of base jumping forever after they were literally data dumped.
Well done.
God, that's actually fascinating. You're right. The overwhelming sensation of the fear of that you're going to die literally causes you to die.
Yeah. And then what is the motivation? If you're going through that much fear, like, are you doing under pressurized by your friends? Or is it like these days you have all the pressure from the social media? So what's the motivation that you're taking this risk? And I don't know, in that situation when people are going through that much fear, you have to ask what's the motivation, why they put themselves into it, if it's obviously like sensory overwhelming.
Well, it's just interesting how it can then when you guys are able to then basically compartmentalize it. And go, yeah, I know it's here. It is present, but I'm going to utilize it to keep me alive. Yeah. As opposed to
there's mental tricks you have to go through to make that happen, and training. It takes time to desensitize yourself enough to where you can actually cope. And this is where it comes into this idea of you train, you learn, you do more. I mean, you work your way into things slowly. You don't just put yourself in the scariest situation possible on day one because you're not going to make it.
But you still, like, I know you've expressed, and both of you expressed this, where you're still up to the point of your feet literally leaving whatever object you're jumping from. The fear is there, but I know you explained this, but once you jump and you're in the air, the fear, hopefully, unless you freeze up, is gone.
Usually, if you've done the proper training, you know what you're doing.
If not, then happens what Jeb just described. So that's also the other side of the coin. But I think what we would talk about here as base jumping and this most hardcore side of the base jumping, it's the spearheads, and it's definitely shape our perspectives of dying. But I'd like to take us back to just the concept of dying, like how it can be a motivator in life, because it is, in the end, it's the final equalizer that we all have. And then how already like different histories, like ancient civilizations, have turned that into a power and something that is a motivator behind it. And that is probably one of the main integrants behind 3777 and our meeting. Yeah. And then, because I like what
you believe in it so much, but let's pull that damn sleeve down, dude.
Let's see. Here we go.
There we go. Nice.
So in that sense, this is always, I want to keep it this as a reminder. So like, I mean, a lot of the people and for our tribe wear our clothes in sense of reminder, okay, there's an urgency of doing things right now, not to push them forward. And I think what we kind of made the basic ingredients and the foundations of 3777, it came from a very pure place, and it was very unique and based on our life experiences. But I think in some way we reinvented something that has been along for a long time, anywhere from memento mori, which is with my rusty Latin, it's like, remember you must die. So people always felt that it's important that you carry this acknowledgement of being here, present right now. And I think that's one of the key components that what Jeb was just describing, how we see death and how it can make us to give us a purpose in life.
Well, it's funny. I was getting interviewed once by and some woman. She was asking me questions, and she said, are you scared of dying? I mean, what you do is so dangerous. Like, doesn't it frighten you to die? And I looked at her, I'm like, I've got some really bad news for you. And she's like, really, what's that? And I'm like, I'm gonna die. I've got some even worse news for you. And she's like, what's that? And I'm like, you're gonna die too. And not only are you gonna die, every single person watching this is gonna die. The lighting people back there are gonna die. Everyone's gonna die. And I, for one, am not going to allow the fear of something that is completely and absolutely inevitable prevent me from living my dreams and doing the things that I love. So that became kind of the encapsulating concept of 3777. This is the dimensions of a gravesite. It is where we're going. We're all going to die. And the concept is you put that on your chest, you are aware of it, you know it, you understand it, and you don't allow the fear of it to prevent you from living your life and doing incredible things. And I came up with a quote many years ago that I always really loved, which is, your time in this world is limited, but the things that you can do at that time are not. And that's where, if you can start truly grasping and understanding that message and that knowledge and understand that, it frees you to live a remarkable life. Because the fear of death holds people back. It makes them so they don't go out of their house and do things. And you're like, dude, I mean, it's like, well, I would love to ride a motorcycle and get wind in my hair and drive down the PCH, but I might get hit by a car and die. And you're like, well, if you don't do that, you're still going to die. If you don't get hit by a car and die, you will still die. It's going to get you some way. I've got one more story for you.
Yeah,
And this one is another reason why whenever I'm doing something really gnarly and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. This is too scary. I can't do it. And I'm like crying and being a little bitch about it. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like, I need to stop. But this story resonates with me, and it goes through my head. I had a buddy. He was young. He's like maybe 25. He wasn't that old. And he was at a football game. I wasn't with him, but he was at a football game. And he started getting a really bad headache. And the people who were with him were like, hey, you need a Tylenol, you need aspirin. He's like, no, it's just a really bad headache. Like, this is really hurting me. And within an hour, he was dead.
Wow.
And what happened is he got a brain aneurysm. He was an athlete. He ate healthy. He didn't get hit in the head. Nothing happened. He just had a blood vessel in his head pop in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he died. And once you understand brain aneurysms, right, and you understand that they can happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time, you all of a sudden are like, wow, maybe I should go on that vacation.
Yeah.
Maybe I should quit that job I fucking hate and do something I actually might enjoy. And that, to me, I think that's what it does when you truly grasp mortality, you truly grasp that you're going to die, because then all of a sudden these things that might kill you, they also might not. You might actually get to live an incredible life and do incredible things. You might actually travel around the world 40 times.
Yeah.
You might see countries and cultures and people and make friends that you never would have done if you just sat in your house and watched the television. And I think that that's, for me, one of the reasons why I've loved base jumping and I've loved surfing and I've loved climbing and skydiving and flying wingsuits is because it's gotten me up off the couch, it's gotten me in airplanes, and taken me all over the world. I've lived 10 lifetimes in my 48 years. And that's the thing, is I can die right now with a smile on my face. Every moment I get from this point forward, actually, when I was 30, when I was 25, every moment, the last decade and almost 2 decades of my life have been bonus time. This has been bonus. All of this is extra. At 16 years old, I wasn't supposed to live. I wasn't supposed to survive. I wasn't built for this world. I wasn't meant to be here. And that's how I felt. And I almost took myself out. And I feel really super lucky that I didn't. And that's what I try to tell people now. There are people watching this who are suffering.
Yeah.
There are people who think life isn't worth living. And all I can tell you is, it is. As long as you're alive, there's endless possibilities to do anything. Anything can happen. The second you're dead, that's the end of all possibilities. Hold on. That's all I can say. Hang in there. It will get better. It can get better. All you have to do is try, and you will find something that gives your life purpose. You just have to try. That's all I can say.
Yeah. See, this is why he's our main ambassador.
Yeah, well, that was well said. Like, should we add anything on that?
Well, look, I wanted to back up a second. It was interesting when you guys were talking about having that understanding. You look at also what once people kind of have that understanding of their mortality, what they can accomplish.
Oh,
Like a Chuck Yeager and the astronauts going to space and just the things that people then have done, knowing that they're putting their life on the line in the act of doing it, but that have gone on to do great things. Right?
And any great things and anything, just to like seek what gives you a reason and motivation. Because on deathbeds, it's always the regrets. It's not the things that you've done; it's the things that you never did. And I think that's also a fuel that should carry with you.
Well, and what you just said, all great things,
all of them,
all great things have involved risk and involved the possibility of dying. All great things. I don't care what you're talking about. If you've done something amazing that's changed this world in some way, there was risk and there was the possibility of death.
And behind that, there was probably lots of failures that they learned to harness to make it in that point, like we talked before.
What it took us to cross oceans to find the new world, how many people died? A lot. How many people climbing Mount Everest or climbing the biggest mountains in the world and crossing those mountain ranges? How many died in the process? A lot. How many people died moving from South Africa north as we literally migrated? A lot. We're talking generations of people dying.
How many people?
Oh, a lot. But the concept is that if you're going to do anything great with your life, there's the possibility of dying. And I always say it like this, man. I hope that I get to die doing something spectacular. I hope that I'm in the process of turning a dream into a reality when I die. I hope that's when it happens. I would prefer that over dying from cancer or getting hit by a bus or, a brain aneurysm. I mean, at the end of the day, that's why you should go out there and try shit. Because, at the end of the day, I mean, what was it? Helen Keller, you might as well, the quote is so great.
I remember, life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all.
And this comes from a blind, deaf woman.
Yeah.
And she understood how, and it was the first part of that quote is, exposure is, you're no safer like hiding in your house than you are with full exposure. Because eventually you're going to die regardless, So the concept of the quote is freaking remarkable. And it is, to me, I think that's an important concept, is go out there and do things.
Well, it's amazing to be able to have a discussion about it too, because again, so many people are scared to talk about it because they don't, when you really, or especially if you're by yourself, when you start thinking about it, it can fuck with your head. It can be a scary thing until you do, like you said, realize you can't change it. You could take all the pills in the world. Okay, maybe we extend to 120, 150 or whatever it is with technology, but still at some point, your physical, that's it. Whether your brain gets transferred into some other thing, whatever crazy technology,
you ready?
It's,
Entropy is part of the universe. All things die. Whether you're a tree, a whale, human, a planet, a sun, a solar system, a galaxy, a universe, right? It's all coming to an end. And that's just the reality. It's just a matter of time. How much time do you get? And that's why time is so valuable and so important. And that's why you need to really, really get the fact that, okay, I have a time horizon, a limited amount of it, and I need to do something with it while I can.
Yeah, I think it's important. Like, I think we tapped into something very good in this episode. It's that we can use death as a fuel for life and then make all our actions count. But then there's the other thing, like the physical fear or the mental fear of death. There's always something to battle, and there's no solution. There's nothing, you can't do the pill and you can't suddenly change that and just, but I think there's always good guidelines to live by. And usually if you're lying on that deathbed and if your life has been filled with anger and hate and fear, most likely those same thoughts are going to be in your head the moment you die. But at the same time, if you try purposefully to live a life that is full with gratitude and love and courage, those same thoughts are going to reflect you when you have to face the last time. So I think it's important that we keep challenging ourselves and we keep gaining courage and we will life to be proud of and we show gratitude and love. And those can be the final words for this specific episode.
I think that's the great reminder, is to just remember it's a positive thing. And I think that's what 3777 stands for. So many people hear that it's the dimensions of a grave. And some people are like, oh, that's cool. And the other people are like,
that's dark.
They get scared. And then it's like, whoa. And then when you really explain it and you actually comprehend what it stands for, that it stands for. It's the reminder, it's the beacon to live your life to the fullest. That's when most everybody goes, okay, that's cool. I get it. And that's a great motto. That's something great to stand behind. So look, with that, and as a good reminder or a good wrapping it up, I want to, again, I appreciate you guys coming on, you spilling the beans. You guys are opening up, which, you usually don't do. It's usually in a close-knit circle, but we're just trying to help other people out there and make them understand and have a different perspective of certain things. And this was definitely a different outlook on death. So with that said, everybody, please subscribe to the 3777 channel. Also go to 3777.com. Check out our unique gear. Check out our Ronins, which are our ambassadors. There's great stories. There's great videos. Be inspired. Inspire us. And we love that you guys have tuned in, listened, and watched. And we will talk to you next time.
Wow, like a professional. Well done.